Hello, darklings, lightlings, and hybrids, my lovelies. So I showed you on a short not long ago that I've been working on like a fan-made Silent Hill Oracle deck, and today I want to talk a little bit about the shadow and the cards and what they represent and why I would use them in a reading to give me deeper insight on these aspects of somebody or the reading to help with like healing. Sometimes we have to look in depth at the darkness in order to heal, right? I want to talk about healing here soon, as discussed in my last video, and the alchemical union and harmony of all the aspects of healing in our body spiritually. But I also want to do a video on how I do shadow work, VR to Amethyst Ascension, because I feel like I have a few takes on that as well to share. But I want this to kind of open it up and to see how we can use symbology and things that we love in order to use it as a tool for deeper insight or understanding, not only in ourselves, but others as well. So I hope you enjoy this. Okay, so let's explore a little bit about Silent Hill and the shadow before getting into the cards and their symbolism. For those who've never played Silent Hill, I'll give you a quick rundown and why I love this game so much and how it relates to the occult. Well, an occultist actually had a hand in creating the first few games, and it is heavily embodied with deep occult symbolism, with alchemy, the shadow, and many other aspects. There's, in the third one, even tarot and astrology symbolism. It is just amazing work. To those who aren't into the occult, probably just see it as a horror game, whereas those who are can easily spot the deep symbolism in this. For every character you play that enters the realm of Silent Hill, you understand that it's all to face their shadow, the things that they are running from unconsciously, and a reality manifested through their delusional conscious mind. I made these to work with myself in shadow work, and if I give other people readings who want to explore their shadow, these will help me get a deeper understanding symbolically of what they could be going through along with their tarot reading, because I understand this game and these stories so well. And I thought, why is this deck not out there yet? It is unfinished. Some of them I want to redo, and I do need to add more. I purposely did the artwork kind of like a comic-y, not really too dark, yet the darkness is there in the symbolism, because this is a pretty heavy deck. And a little trigger warning for anybody, we will be discussing trauma and like sexual traumas, but vaguely. I'm not going to get too much into it, just symbolism of what some of these monsters mean pertaining to that in the shadow. I do have mostly Silent Hill 2 characters and symbolism in this, but I did include others from other games. So let's get into it. This one is James Sutherland. He is the main character in the second game. And the game starts out with a James looking, staring at his reflection. And he seems confused about his reality. Silent Hill and the monsters manifest from the unconscious mind, which puts life and the things we go through in a new light. Because our reality is exactly that, a projection of the unconscious mind, the issue is we have 8 billion people whose mind is doing the same thing. The world's collective view, like everything, everyone can see and experience, such as like countries, we all know they're there, we all know the oceans are there, the stars are there, towns, etc. It's all manifested from the collective. Then we have our individual unconscious projections of reality. This is why it can be hard to deal with certain things, because we all have these issues, right? We all have parts of our unconscious mind or the shadow helping to create our reality, but it isn't just the unconscious. We'll get into that in a moment. In Silent Hill, the characters you meet all create this sort of limbo or hell from low vibrational feelings, unhealed traumas, etc., and unconsciously project what they suffer from inside on the outside. Each monster represents a part of their shadow or issues or aspects they run from unconsciously. At some point in our lives, we enter our own Silent Hill and battle our own monsters. Every person or monster is an aspect of us in our world, and we don't like to see that with the bad guys, but it's true. Everyone is a reflection of a part of us, right? Silent Hill 2 story explanation to understand the cards better. So, at the beginning, after he's staring in the mirror, he goes outside, which this is the restroom he was in outside Silent Hill. He goes outside after retrieving a letter from his dead wife saying, "Meet me in our special place in Silent Hill." And she says, in my restless dreams, I see this town. And James is saying to himself, a dead person can't write a letter, so then why am I still looking for her? And this further shows us his state of mind. So he sees his issues, but still chooses to go ahead in his search for her in Silent Hill, which how many of us do this in real life? Everybody. Examples are like an addict wakes from an overdose, knows they almost died, yet seeks more drugs. A person you love shows red flags, yet they are ignored. No one is clean of this behavior, and there are many examples of it. And that's why we judge others, which is exactly the same projection patterns, and it's all protecting the ego. Difficult to pinpoint these projections ourselves because it is the unconscious, yet others may be able to see it in you, even if they don't understand why you act like that, because only you know your perspectives and experiences. Like the characters in these games, we have a lot more in our shadow than just traumas and pain. There are also desires, which make up a huge part of the shadow, and we may feel ashamed of them or our sexuality, etc. To understand other people's odd behaviors and choices, we need to understand the shadow which causes those patterns and choices resides in the unconscious mind, which is truth, and we need to understand the difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious. They are different and are not interchangeable, even though people tend to use them interchangeably. The conscious mind is our alert mind we are always aware of. The unconscious is related to things like your nervous system, which we are not always aware of, like our heart beating, our breathing, right? We just unconsciously or automatically do these things. And we don't need to be conscious for all of it to work. Our unconscious mind is our instincts and primitive natures, our channels, visions, your intuition, dreams. It communicates with us through the unconscious as well as delusions, psychosis, etc. And that usually takes place when the unconscious is trying to feed truths, but the conscious mind doesn't want to hear it. So, other things like our visions, our gut feelings, and our intuition and dreams, when they tend to tell us something and we listen, That is the truths we are facing and integrating that our unconscious mind is trying to tell us. So well done when you receive that. Sometimes our conscious will deceive us to protect the ego. We are good at lying or deceiving ourselves and others, which is one example. The unconscious mind does not lie. So if we are lying to ourselves, the unconscious will project things to attempt to force us to see truth and doesn't care about the ego, which is fighting these things. Your unconscious mind is like the wise elder, and the conscious is sort of like the toddler. If your unconscious drags you into darkness or a crazy reality, it is definitely for a reason. That's why if you're pulled to something but don't really know why, you should go for it, go to it, even if it is scary. It is all to get us on our paths or face our shadows and lies that we tell ourselves, which creates these awful realities and monsters in our minds or our waking world. Each Silent Hill character faces a lot of monsters, darkness, and pain until the end, when they are faced with truth and accept it. The conscious ego can no longer lie to them. They integrate the shadow. Now let's go over some of the cards and what some of the monsters mean on a deep symbolic aspect, which I feel relates to a lot of people in humanity, whether we want to admit it or not. So, this card means denial of reality, seeking truth, starting a new journey of shadow work. This one means hopeful new journey, looking for something lost or finding it. You're kind of hopeful, you don't know what you're getting into yet. Your conscious mind is fibbing to the ego, and you are confident in this journey that you can do this, right? No problems, no issues. That's a piece of cake. Then you get to the town and you're going, oh shit. I wasn't aware of all of this. What's going on? I'm manifesting monsters. I'm trapped. I'm lost. What's happening? Then you come up on a door. This is a famous area in Silent Hill 1 when he enters the town. And this message written in blood is on the wall, the door that wakes in darkness, opening into nightmares. So it's up to you to go through that door and to work on this shadow and these things you're manifesting in reality that you're not happy with. There's only one way to fight these demons, and it isn't lying to yourself and running. It's walking through that door. Often in Silent Hill, it's very dark. You have a small flashlight and you're running through secluded and abandoned hallways and such. So this here is kind of like, in Hermit and Tarot, you're only seeing in front of you. You have a very narrow point of view on something that you are seeking. And you're kind of in a maze and lost, trying to find the map or the way forward. You're not really sure how to go about this. In Silent Hill 2, Maria is a projection of the anima of James's wife, Mary. She embodies everything he desired her to be, but she wasn't, more sexually suggestive, etc. So she represents your desires versus your needs. So, kind of like your wants versus needs. Seeing only what you want to see, but not actually seeing what's in front of you. Or you're being lied to by the ego, the conscious mind. Angela is another person James meets in Silent Hill. Now, Angela's story is quite sad, whereas her monsters and shadows is she was sexually traumatized by her father. And when you come to the climax of her altercation with her shadow, James walks in this room with these holes that you see behind her, and there are these things thrusting in and out of them, and her father is manifested as a monster on a bed under the sheets, with a phallus coming out of, it seems like, his nose from under the blanket. And it's pretty clear of what that symbolizes and means. And Angela's traumas definitely root in all of that. She's very kind of meek, submissive, afraid of people. She was afraid of men. When James first encountered her, she seemed kind of indifferent or jumpy. So this card represents like sexual trauma, childhood issues, or being a product of your environment, needing healing from childhood traumas. This is another character that James meets, and he seems to always self-loathe. And when you come to the climax with him, you are in a rusted old like meat locker, and you have to fight and battle him. He's like the shapeshifter archetype, where he seems like a good guy at first, but then ends up not being a good guy. And he had even like killed a dog in the game and seemed to just completely lose his mind. And you realize that he had always kind of been that nuts. He was just hiding it and wearing a good mask. And he explains later that he had shot a bully in school. So I think that really took a toll on his mental status, and he kind of went crazy with that. So what I have him representing is self-pity, self-indulgence, low self-esteem, jaded by experience, kind of bitter over experiences versus healing. He would like blame the world. This I have to redo because I want it straighter, but it's the symbol of the order, and also a symbol where you can save your game. So this just means kind of take a pause, a rest, and work on yourself and pamper yourself. So in Silent Hill 2, Pyramid Head constantly stalks James throughout the halls, and at this scene, it's where he and his anima are running from Pyramid Head, and he ends up killing his anima in front of him. And this represents James starting to see through the lies he tells himself, and he's starting to, it's like halfway through the game, so he's starting to see certain things, yet he's still in denial. And we're going to get into Pyramid Head here soon and what he represents to make more sense of that. So this represents your shadows kind of trying to do the work for you, which your shadow's not your enemy. It is trying to tell you how to seek healing, how to deal with these issues. It's not an evil force out to hurt or get you. It's something you created that we have to take responsibility for, by lying to ourselves or, not working on healing, in my opinion. It also represents you're too afraid to see things as they are, and also you're almost freed of it. Like you or your shadow, whoever's doing the work, you're almost there. You're starting to free yourself. This is a odd room in the game where James has to keep jumping through holes to descend into the abyss, and it keeps asking you, like, will you jump down the hole? This is symbolic for his feelings of jumping into his subconscious and really trying to decipher and do the work and face the darkness. He don't know what's down there, but he's taking a leap of faith, right? This card represents jumping into the depths of issues, that bravery of starting to face these things. This card is Heather from the third one, and she represents like your loss of innocence, your coming into the real world, investigating mind, battling the self as well as others, trying to do the right thing, etc. This card's from Silent Hill PT, which was never released, but the demo was. And you're kind of going through a never-ending loop, and the hallway gets more scary as you keep going around the loop. So this represents repeated patterns, addiction, insanity, etc. So I'm just going to go through these real quick because this is getting really long. This is the door from Silent Hill 4, the room, where you're trapped in a room, but you go through like a wormhole into Silent Hill. This is also from Silent Hill PT, of a crying fetus in a dirty bathroom, representing crippling phobias, victim mentality, etc. And this is the dark half of Heather, or Alyssa, and this is pretty much coming to terms with your dark side, facing yourself, understanding dark human nature. Now let's talk about these monsters and the symbolism, because these I think are more important. Okay, so first we have Pyramid Head, who is infamous in these games, and he purely, to put it short, represents the shadow aspect of James. What he represents on a deeper level is male desires unfulfilled. He's everything James desires to be, yet is not. He dwells in the lower self, detached from the higher self. He is the shadow who pursues until the character James faces himself. He has no face due to representing primitive animal instincts. His head is trapped in a lower self consciousness. The nurses in Silent Hill represent the anxieties that James has. When he took care of his terminally ill wife, he was surrounded by them. The fact they are in revealing scrubs represents his sexual frustrations. He had to watch his beautiful wife wither. The Gray Child in Silent Hill 1 represents Alyssa's projections of painful memories of being bullied by her peers. The Mannequins in Silent Hill 2 again represent James's repressed sexuality. When you meet these monsters, they are being sexually assaulted by Pyramid Head, and they attack James by wrapping their legs around him. Robbie the Rabbit is iconic. He's seen with most children in the Silent Hill series. He's a symbol of the corruption of innocence, darkness being introduced into a child's life. Sold at the Silent Hill theme park, he should be a happy thing, if not for the blood over his grin, and also he's seen by many dead bodies. Monster Mary in Silent Hill 2 is the final boss, and she is James's wife in a hospital bed, and just this withered creature pursuing him. She represents the spiteful side of Mary, as she became angry and took it out on James when he cared for her. She also represents his guilt and need to be punished by her for his needs of being sexually deprived. After slaying her, he integrates his shadow. The Smog represents a burning anger and smoldering guilt built up and needing to be released, yet is done so in unhealthy ways. Ism represents duality, and his head being split in two points towards that, along with his right hand being forward, but his left hand curves backwards in another dualistic symbol. The two splits in his head can also represent a split mind. His head being in the shape of a pendulum, a medieval device designed to gain a confession by swinging over flesh, torturing a victim until they confess or die. So Scarlet is like a broken doll that you have to shatter, but inside it's like fleshy when you fight her. And she's in Silent Hill Homecoming. She represents guilt from her father and his harming her mentally, physically, and sexually. The father ended up sacrificing her and dismembering her, and she manifests in this game as a symbol of his guilt. If this card showed up in a reading, I put the keywords on the back, excuse my awful handwriting, but like issues of being perfect, forced by parents. You want to be who you are, but you're being forced to be who you aren't, causing shadows. Symbolically killed by father, or guilt as a parent. This one is the lurker and represents restraint one feels from lack of love from family or peers. The mouth, similar to a vagina, may also be a fear of women. This also symbolizes regret and the need for repentance. So to put it short, if this came up, I would say it's a lack of forgiving oneself or others. And lastly, for now, we have the Siam, and it represents helplessness and being dragged by fate. A woman is bound to a man who is helpless to escape, while the man is helpless to escape his burden of carrying her. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I do want to go more in depth on the shadow soon because, like I said in my last video, we're going to be talking about healing and alchemically aligning the body with all aspects of healing. But I wanted to kind of open it up with this, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Much love.